My 8-year-old daughter pressed record because she was afraid her daddy was going to hurt me. That recording didn't just expose his affair, it proved I was never crazy, and it saved my life. If you've ever been told you're too emotional or imagining things, please stay. This story is for you. Let me take you back to what I thought was my life. From the outside, we looked perfect. The kind of family people point to in church and say, now that's what a real marriage looks like. A beautiful family, 2 kids, nice house in the suburbs of Atlanta. The kind of house with a 2-car garage and a backyard big enough for barbecues and birthday parties. We had the white picket fence, literally. Derek insisted on it when we moved in, said it completed the picture. I should have known then that he was more concerned with pictures than reality. Derek and I had been married for 12 years when everything fell apart. 12 years. That's a long time to build a life with someone, a long time to trust someone, a long time to be deceived. We met at a friend's wedding in the summer of 2008. I was 24 years old, wearing a lavender dress I couldn't really afford, trying to look like I belonged among all those successful people. I was fresh out of college, working my first real job as a junior accountant at a small firm downtown. Derek walked up to me during the reception. Tall, handsome, smile so bright it could light up a room. He was wearing a tailored suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Girl, that man made me feel like the only woman in the room. He asked me to dance. I said yes. We talked all night. He told me about his job in finance, his dreams of starting his own consulting firm, his close relationship with his mama. He seemed perfect. Red flag number 1 that I completely missed. Nobody's perfect. But I was young and in love, and I wanted to believe that fairy tales could come true for girls like me. 3 months later, we were engaged. Everyone said we were moving too fast. My mama pulled me aside after I showed her the ring. Baby, you barely know this man. What's the rush? Mama, when you know, you know. She looked at me with those wise eyes of hers, eyes that had seen too much, eyes that had survived my daddy leaving when I was 7. That's what I thought about your father, too. I didn't listen. I was too caught up in the whirlwind, too intoxicated by the attention, the romance, the feeling of being chosen. My sister Tanya had concerns, too. Keisha, he's charming, almost too charming. You sure you know who he really is? What's that supposed to mean? I don't know. Something about him feels off, like he's performing all the time. You're just jealous. I actually said that to my sister who had always protected me, always looked out for me. I accused her of jealousy because I couldn't handle anyone questioning my perfect man. That's how deep I was already in it, and we weren't even married yet. My best friend Tamika was the only one who didn't say anything negative, but I caught her watching Derek sometimes, with this look on her face, like she was trying to figure something out. Years later, she told me she had a bad feeling from the start, but she didn't want to be the friend who ruined my happiness. She figured I'd learn on my own. She was right. I did learn, but it took me 12 years and nearly cost me everything. The wedding was beautiful. June 2009, 200 guests, a church ceremony followed by a reception at a fancy hotel downtown. Derek's family paid for most of it. His mama made sure everyone knew that. I should have paid more attention to his mama. Should have noticed how she looked at me during the ceremony, like I wasn't good enough for her precious son, like I was a placeholder until someone better came along. But I was too busy floating on cloud 9, too busy believing I had found my happily ever after. The first few years were good, or at least I told myself they were good. Derek worked long hours, but he was building his career, building our future. That's what he said anyway. I worked too, kept my job at the accounting firm. We were a team, he said, partners. But somewhere along the way, the partnership became one-sided. When our first child was born, Marcus, everything changed. Derek said it made sense for me to stay home. Why pay for daycare when I could be there for our son? He was making enough money for both of us. And didn't I want to be a good mother? Of course I did. What kind of question was that? So I quit my job, gave up the career I had worked so hard to build, told myself it was temporary, just until the kids were in school. temporary turned into 12 years. I became a stay-at-home mom, a wife, a cook, a cleaner, a laundry service, an event planner, a chauffeur, a therapist, a nurse, a teacher, everything except myself. When Zoe was born 2 years after Marcus, I was even more consumed by motherhood. 2 kids under 3, no time to think, no time to breathe, no time to notice that my husband was slowly becoming a stranger. I thought that's what being a good wife meant, staying quiet, keeping the peace, protecting the image, putting everyone else's needs before my own. See, Derek was real concerned about image, how we looked at church, how we looked at his company events, how we looked to the neighbors, how we looked on social media. I spent hours making sure everything was perfect. The house, the kids, the meals, my appearance. Everything had to be flawless on the outside, and I was the one making sure it stayed that way. When the kids got older, I wanted to go back to work. I had a degree in accounting. I could have built something for myself, could have had my own identity again. But every time I brought it up, Derek had a reason why it wasn't the right time. Keisha, the kids still need you home. Marcus is struggling in school. Zoe has her dance classes. Who's going to manage all that if you're working? I could figure it out. Other mothers work. Other mothers don't have husbands who can provide for them. What, my money's not good enough for you? That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? You want to work some 9 to 5 so you can be exhausted all the time? Neglect the kids? Neglect me? I'm not going to neglect anyone. He'd sigh, that heavy, disappointed sigh I came to know so well. Look, if you want to work, fine, but don't come crying to me when everything falls apart, when the house is a mess and the kids are acting out and dinner's not ready. I'd back down. Every single time. I'd tell myself it wasn't worth the fight, that he was probably right, that I was lucky to have a husband who could provide for us, that I should be grateful. After a while, I stopped asking. I stopped dreaming. I stopped being me. And the worst part? I didn't even notice it happening. I was so busy being Derek's wife and the kids' mother that I forgot I was Keisha, just Keisha. A whole person with her own thoughts and feelings and dreams and desires. I forgot what I wanted, what I liked, what made me happy outside of my family. I forgot who I was. And in that forgetting, I became the perfect victim. Because when you don't know who you are, it's easy for someone else to tell you. When you don't trust yourself, it's easy to trust someone who's lying to you. When you've given up everything, it's easy to accept crumbs and call them a feast. That's where I was. That's who I had become, a shadow of the woman I used to be. What I didn't know was that while I was sacrificing everything, Derek was living a whole other life, a life I knew nothing about, a life built on lies and secrets and betrayal. And my 8-year-old daughter was about to show me exactly who I had married. The signs were there. They're always there. We just don't want to see them. Looking back now, I can trace the changes, pin them down to specific moments, specific shifts. But at the time, each one seemed so small, so explainable, so easy to dismiss. It started about 3 years before everything fell apart. Zoe was 5, Marcus was 7. I was 33 and feeling older than my years. The first thing I noticed was the phone. Derek had always been attached to his phone. Work emails, he said. The finance world never sleeps. I was used to him checking it constantly, responding to messages at all hours. But something changed. He started taking the phone everywhere. Into the bathroom, into the garage when he worked on his car, into the backyard when he was grilling. I mentioned it once, casually. Derek, you even take that thing to the toilet now? He laughed it off. Gotta stay connected, baby. You know how it is. I didn't know how it was, but I let it go. Then the passwords changed. One night, I needed to look something up and my phone was dead. I grabbed his laptop like I'd done 100 times before. Incorrect password. I tried again. Same message. Derek, what's the password to your laptop? He was in the kitchen, making himself a drink. I heard the ice clink against the glass. "Oh, I changed it. Company required us to update all our security." "Okay, what is it?" He came into the room, took the laptop from me gently but firmly. "I'll look it up for you. What do you need?" "I just wanted to check the weather for this weekend. We have Marcus's soccer game." He opened the laptop, angled away from me so I couldn't see the screen, typed in the password. "Looks like it's going to be nice. Mid-70s. Perfect soccer weather." He closed the laptop before I could say anything else. That was the first time I felt it, that little twist in my gut, that whisper in the back of my mind saying, something's not right. But I pushed it down. Of course I did. This was Derek, my husband, the father of my children. He wasn't hiding anything. He was just being cautious with company security. That's what I told myself. Then the phone calls started. Derek had always taken work calls at home. That was normal. But these calls were different. He'd look at the screen. His expression would change, just for a second. Then he'd say he had to take this. And he'd leave. Go to the garage, go outside, go somewhere I couldn't hear. Sometimes he'd be gone for 30, 40 minutes. When he came back, he'd be different. Sometimes agitated, sometimes weirdly happy, like he was on a high from something. "Derek, who was that?" "Work stuff. You know how it is." "For 40 minutes? Big project. Lots of details to discuss." "At 9 o'clock at night?" "International clients. Different time zones. You know how it is." That phrase again. You know how it is. Like I was supposed to understand something that didn't make any sense. I didn't know how it was, but I stopped asking. The business trips came next. Derek had always traveled for work occasionally. Once every couple months, maybe. A conference here, a client meeting there. But suddenly it was constant. First it was once a month, then twice a month, then every week. "Derek, that's a lot of traveling." "I know, baby, but we're expanding, opening new markets. I have to be there in person to close these deals." "Can't you do some of it by video call?" He looked at me like I'd suggested something ridiculous. "Keisha, you don't close million-dollar deals over Zoom. You shake hands, you have dinner, you build relationships. This is how business works." "What about our relationship? What about the kids?" He sighed. That sigh again. "I'm doing this for us, for our future, so the kids can have everything they need, so you can have the life you deserve. And instead of supporting me, you're complaining." "I'm not complaining. I just miss you." His face softened. He pulled me into a hug. "I miss you too, baby. This won't last forever, just a little while longer. Then things will calm down." Things never calmed down. The trips got more frequent, and Derek got more distant. The intimacy stopped too. In the early years of our marriage, we had a healthy sex life. Not perfect, but good. Connected. I felt desired, wanted. But somewhere along the way, it faded. We went from making love regularly to barely touching at all. Weeks would go by, then months. When I tried to initiate, he was always tired, always stressed, always had an early meeting, always had a headache. I started to think it was me. Maybe I'd gained too much weight after the kids. I'd put on about 20 pounds that I couldn't seem to lose. Maybe that's why he wasn't interested. Maybe I wasn't attractive anymore. Maybe I'd let myself go. Maybe I wasn't trying hard enough. So I started working out, got up at 5 in the morning to exercise before the kids woke up, bought new lingerie, planned romantic dinners after the kids went to bed. I tried everything. Nothing worked. And when I finally got the courage to ask him directly, to ask if something was wrong, to ask if there was something we needed to talk about, you know what he said? "Keisha, you're reading too much into things." "What do you mean?" "I mean you're overthinking, overanalyzing, making problems where there aren't any." "But we haven't been intimate in 3 months." He rolled his eyes. "I'm exhausted. I'm working 70-hour weeks to provide for this family. And you want to make me feel guilty because I'm too tired to perform on command? That's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying? Because it sounds like you're accusing me of something." "I'm not accusing. I'm just worried. About us." He got up from the bed, walked to the door. "There is no us problem. There's a you problem. You create drama where there is none. You see conspiracies everywhere. Maybe you need to talk to someone, a therapist or something, because this constant paranoia isn't healthy." I sat there, stunned. Somehow, my concern about our marriage had become evidence of my mental instability. Somehow, I was the problem. That became the pattern. Every time I questioned something, every time I noticed something off, every time my gut whispered that something was wrong, "You're overreacting. You're being emotional. You're imagining things. You're crazy." He didn't use that exact word, not at first, but that's what he meant. That's what he was slowly convincing me of, that I couldn't trust my own perception, my own instincts, my own eyes and ears. There was this one night. I found a receipt in his jacket pocket. I was doing laundry, checking pockets like I always did. A restaurant I'd never heard of, Chez Michel, French place downtown. $247 for dinner. The itemized receipt showed 2 filet mignons, 2 glasses of expensive wine, 2 desserts. I remember standing in our laundry room, holding that receipt, my hands shaking. I waited until the kids were asleep, sat Derek down in the living room. "Derek, I found this." I handed him the receipt. He looked at it casually, like it was nothing. "What about it?" "It says 2 steaks, 2 glasses of wine, 2 desserts. Who were you having dinner with?" He didn't even blink. "Client dinner. James Morrison from the Chicago office. We were celebrating closing the Henderson account." "But you told me you were working late that night. You said you'd grabbed a sandwich at your desk." He paused, just for a second. Then that easy smile. "I said I was working late. I was. The dinner was work. We were discussing strategy. You know how these things go." "That's a $250 dinner." "It's a business expense, Keisha. The company pays for it. I don't understand why you're interrogating me." "I'm not interrogating. I just wanted to know." "And now you know. Client dinner. End of story." "But last month you said the company was cutting back on expenses. No more fancy dinners." His expression shifted, just slightly, a flash of something I couldn't identify. "That was for internal meetings. Client entertainment is different." "Look, Keisha, I don't like where this is going." "Where what is going?" "This," he gestured at me, "at the receipt, at the space between us. You're accusing me of something. Just come out and say it." "I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just asking questions." "No, you're not. You're implying that I'm lying, that I'm hiding something. That's what you do. Every time. You look for reasons to doubt me, reasons to start arguments, reasons to make our life difficult. I just want the truth. The truth is, I work my ass off for this family, 60, 70 hours a week, and I come home to a wife who treats me like a criminal, who searches my pockets, who questions my every move." He stood up, looked down at me with disappointment in his eyes. "I'm not doing this tonight. I'm going to bed." He walked away, left me sitting there with that receipt in my hands. Somehow, once again, I was the bad guy. Somehow, asking a simple question made me the problem. I sat there for a long time, heart pounding, mind racing. Was he right? Was I being paranoid? Was I creating problems where there weren't any? I looked at the receipt again. 2 filet mignons, 2 glasses of wine. My gut was screaming at me. Something is wrong. He's lying. You know he's lying. But my head was full of his words. "You're overreacting. You're being emotional. You're imagining things." I threw the receipt away. I never brought it up again. But I couldn't shake that feeling, that twist in my stomach, that whisper in my mind. Something was wrong. Something didn't add up. Every time that feeling came up, I pushed it down. Because Derek said I was overreacting. Derek said I was too emotional. Derek said I was imagining things. And I believed him more than I believed myself. That's what gaslighting does to you. It makes you doubt your own eyes, your own ears, your own instincts, your own reality. You start to think you're crazy, that you can't trust yourself, that you need someone else to tell you what's real and what's not. And the person telling you? They're the one lying. I spent 3 years like that. 3 years of pushing down my gut feelings. 3 years of apologizing for asking questions. 3 years of thinking I was the problem. 3 years of slowly losing my mind. Until my daughter showed me the truth. Let me tell you about my daughter, Zoe. From the moment she was born, she was different. I knew it the first time I looked into her eyes. Most newborns have that unfocused gaze, eyes wandering, taking in the blurry new world. Not Zoe. Zoe looked at me like she was studying me, like she was memorizing my face, like she already knew things she shouldn't know. My mama came to visit the day after Zoe was born. She held my baby girl, and something changed in her face. "This one's got old eyes," she said. "She's been here before." I didn't know what she meant then, but I do now. Zoe was always different from her brother Marcus. Marcus was like Derek, outgoing, confident, always the center of attention. He walked early, talked early, charmed everyone he met. Teachers loved him. Other parents loved him. He was the golden child. But Zoe was quiet, watchful, the kind of child who sits in the corner and observes everything while everyone forgets she's there. When she was little, I used to find her in the strangest places, under the dining room table, behind the couch, in the closet with the door cracked open, sitting at the top of the stairs, hidden in shadows. "Baby, what are you doing?" "Just watching, Mama." "Watching what?" "Everything." She wasn't hiding exactly. She was positioning herself, finding the best vantage point to see without being seen. It used to worry me. I thought maybe something was wrong with her. Maybe she was too shy, too withdrawn. Maybe she needed therapy. But Zoe wasn't unhappy. She wasn't anxious. She was just observant, taking in information, processing, understanding. She asked questions other kids didn't ask. "Mama, why do adults say one thing but mean another?" She asked me that when she was 5. 5 years old, asking me about the complexity of human communication. "What do you mean, baby?" "Like when Grandma says she's not hungry, but then she looks sad when we don't save her any cake. Or when Daddy says he's happy to see Uncle Raymond, but his face looks angry." I didn't know how to answer. I laughed nervously, tried to brush it off. "That's just how grown-ups are sometimes, baby. Sometimes we don't want to hurt people's feelings, so we say things we don't mean." Zoe looked at me with those old eyes. "But isn't that lying?" I didn't have an answer for that. As she got older, Zoe's observations got more pointed, more uncomfortable. "Mama, why does Daddy use a different voice for you than for other people?" She was 6 when she asked me that. "What do you mean?" "When Daddy talks to the men at church, his voice is deep and serious. When he talks to pretty ladies, his voice gets soft and smiley. When he talks to you, it sounds annoyed." I felt a chill run through me. "Daddy's not annoyed with me, baby. He's just tired from work." "Okay, Mama, if you say so." That phrase became her signature. "Okay, Mama, if you say so," said in a tone that made it clear she didn't believe me, but wasn't going to argue. Zoe saw things I didn't want her to see. She saw me, crying in the bathroom when I thought the door was locked. She heard me praying at night, asking God what I was doing wrong. She felt the tension in the house, thick enough to choke on. By the time she was 8, she knew something was wrong with her daddy. She couldn't name it, couldn't explain it, but she knew. She told me later, after everything came out. She told me all the things she'd noticed that I'd missed. The way Derek would change his voice when certain people called. That soft, smiley voice. Not like how he talked to me. The way he'd smile at his phone when he thought no one was looking. That real smile. That happy smile. Not the tired, forced smile he gave us. The way he'd leave the room to take calls, always with the same excuse. "It's work, baby. Daddy has to take this." But Zoe noticed that the work calls always made him smile different, made him stand up straighter, made him look in the mirror and smooth down his hair. She noticed that he started dressing better on days when he was supposedly going to work late. New cologne that she didn't recognize, a fresh haircut on a random Tuesday, shirts she'd never seen before. She noticed that he started being nicer to her and Marcus on those days, overcompensating, bringing home gifts for no reason, being extra attentive, asking about their days like he actually cared, like he was trying to make up for something, like he felt guilty. Children see what adults don't want them to see. We think they're not paying attention. We think they're too young to understand. We talk over their heads, whisper behind closed doors, spell out words we don't want them to know. But children are always watching, always listening, always putting pieces together in their innocent little minds. And they understand more than we give them credit for. Zoe didn't understand affairs or infidelity. She didn't know words like cheating or betrayal. She didn't understand that adults sometimes break their promises and destroy their families for someone new. But she understood lies, and she understood when someone was being hurt. She understood that her mother was being hurt, slowly, quietly, in ways no one else could see. She saw me changing, shrinking, becoming less of myself every day. She saw me apologizing for things that weren't my fault, backing down from arguments I should have won, believing things that didn't make sense. She saw me crying when I thought she was asleep. She heard me talking to myself in the mirror, practicing what I would say to Derek, trying to find words that wouldn't make him angry. She felt me flinch when Derek raised his voice, saw me tense up when his car pulled into the driveway. My 8-year-old daughter watched her mother become a prisoner in her own home, and she didn't understand why. There was this one night, a few weeks before everything fell apart. I was sitting on the back porch, watching the sunset. The kids were supposed to be doing homework, but Zoe appeared beside me, quiet as a ghost. "Mama?" "Yes, baby." "Are you happy?" The question hit me like a punch to the gut. Of course I'm happy. I have you and Marcus. I have this beautiful house. I have everything I need. But are you happy? Like, just you, not Mama you, just Keisha you. I stared at my daughter, this tiny person who saw straight through me. I couldn't answer, because I didn't know. I hadn't thought about what made me happy in so long that I'd forgotten the question even existed. Zoe climbed into my lap, put her little arms around my neck. "It's okay, Mama. You don't have to answer, but I think you should think about it." She held me for a long time, and I realized that my 8-year-old daughter was trying to take care of me, trying to protect me, trying to give me permission to matter. When did the roles reverse like this? When did my child become my guardian? There was another night, closer to the end. Zoe came into my bedroom while I was folding laundry. Derek was out. Business dinner, he said. He'd be home late. She sat on the edge of the bed, watched me fold shirts and pants and socks. Derek's socks. Always Derek's laundry. Like I was his servant. "Mama, can I ask you something?" "Of course, baby." "Are you and Daddy okay?" I stopped folding, looked at my daughter. "Of course we're okay. Why do you ask?" "Because Daddy talks to someone on the phone, and he sounds happy. Happier than he sounds with us." My heart stopped. "What do you mean, baby?" "I don't know. I just hear him sometimes, late at night. He goes to the garage and talks to someone, and he laughs, that big laugh. He never laughs like that with us anymore." I wanted to dismiss it, wanted to say she was imagining things, wanted to protect her from whatever truth was lurking beneath the surface. But I couldn't lie to my daughter, not when she was brave enough to tell me the truth. "I'm sure it's nothing, baby. Daddy has a lot of stress at work. Sometimes grown-ups need to talk to their friends." Zoe looked at me with those old eyes, the same look my mama used to give me when she knew I was lying. "Okay, Mama, if you say so." She hugged me and went back to her room. And I stood there, holding a pair of Derek's socks, wondering if my 8-year-old could see more clearly than I could. Children don't understand lies, but they understand fear, and Zoe was afraid. Not for herself, never for herself. She was afraid for me. That's why she did what she did. That's why an 8-year-old girl decided to take matters into her own hands. Because she loved her mama, and she couldn't stand watching me suffer anymore. It happened on a Thursday night in October. I remember every detail of that day, how the leaves were just starting to turn, how the air had that first crisp hint of fall, how the sun set early, leaving the house dark by 7 o'clock. I was in the dining room working on Marcus's Halloween costume. He wanted to be Black Panther that year, had been talking about it for months. I'd found a pattern online and was attempting to sew the bodysuit myself. It wasn't going well. I'd been at it for hours. My back ached, my eyes burned, the sewing machine kept jamming. But I was determined because Marcus was counting on me, because Derek had said it was a waste of money to buy a costume when I could just make one, because I had to prove I could do something right. That was my life then, always proving myself, always trying to be enough. Derek had come home from work around 7, barely said hello, grabbed a plate of the dinner I'd kept warm for him, and disappeared into his office. That was normal. That was every night. I put the kids to bed at 9. Marcus knocked out immediately. He'd had soccer practice that day and was exhausted. I tucked him in, kissed his forehead, whispered that I loved him. Zoe was different. She was always harder to settle at night, her mind too active, too many thoughts spinning around. "Mama, can you lay with me for a while?" "Baby, I have to finish your brother's costume." "Just for a few minutes, please?" I couldn't say no to those eyes. I never could. I lay beside her in her little twin bed, held her hand, hummed a lullaby my mama used to sing to me. "Mama?" "Yes, baby?" "I love you." "I love you too, Zoe, more than anything in this world." "No matter what?" "No matter what." She squeezed my hand, closed her eyes. I thought she was asleep when I slipped out of her room. I thought she would stay asleep all night. I was wrong. Zoe couldn't sleep. She told me everything later when she finally felt safe enough to share, every detail of that night. She lay in her bed staring at the ceiling, her mind racing, thinking about her daddy, about the phone calls, about the way her mama seemed to shrink a little more every day. Around 11 o'clock, she heard footsteps. Derek's heavy footsteps going down the hallway, past her room, past the bathroom, down the stairs. She held her breath, listened. The back door opened, closed. Then she heard his voice, muffled but distinct, coming from the garage, just like all the other nights. But this night was different. Zoe had been planning. In her quiet, observant way, she'd been putting pieces together for weeks, watching, waiting, trying to understand what was happening in her family. She had one of my old phones, an iPhone 6 that I'd stopped using when I got a new one. I'd given it to her to play games on. It wasn't connected to any service, no SIM card, just a fancy toy with Wi-Fi. But it could still record. Zoe had tested it, practiced, made recordings of herself and played them back to make sure it worked. She didn't fully understand what she was planning to do. She just knew that she needed to know what her daddy was saying, who he was talking to, why he sounded so happy when he left the house and so tired when he came back. She lay in bed for a long time, heart pounding, hands sweating. I should go back to sleep, she thought. This is stupid. Daddy will be mad if he catches me. But something stronger pushed her forward, some instinct, some need to protect her mama. She got out of bed, slowly, quietly, crept to her door and opened it just a crack. The hallway was dark, everyone asleep. She could still hear her daddy's voice from the garage, and something else, a woman's voice, faint like it was coming from a phone on speaker. Zoe's heart raced. She slipped out of her room, quiet as a shadow, crept down the hallway, past Marcus's room where she could hear him snoring, past the bathroom, down the stairs, stepping on the edges to avoid the creaky spots. She knew every sound in that house, had mapped it all in her head like a little spy. The third step from the bottom always creaked on the left side. The floorboard in the hallway groaned if you stepped in the middle. The kitchen tile was cold but silent. She navigated it all, moving through her own home like a stranger. The door to the garage was slightly open, a crack of light spilling through. Her daddy's voice, clear now, not muffled, and he was laughing. That laugh, the big, joyful laugh she remembered from when she was little, before things got tense, before Mama started crying, before everything felt wrong. Daddy hadn't laughed like that in a long time. Not with them, not with Mama. But he was laughing now with someone else. Zoe pressed her back against the wall next to the door, heart hammering so hard she was sure he could hear it, hands trembling so much she almost dropped the phone. She raised it toward the crack in the door, pressed the red button, record, and she listened. What she heard changed everything. The first voice was her daddy's, warm, playful, a voice she barely recognized. "Baby, you know I miss you. It's hard being away from you." Then a woman's voice, soft, flirty, familiar in a way Zoe couldn't place. "I miss you too. When are you coming over?" "Tomorrow night. Told Keisha I have a client dinner." "Another one?" "She doesn't question it anymore. I've trained her well." He laughed, that laugh again. But now it sounded different, cruel, mocking. Zoe didn't understand everything she was hearing. She was 8. Words and implications went over her head. But she understood tone. She understood that her daddy was talking to someone the way he used to talk to her mama, soft and sweet and loving. She understood that he was lying to her mama, planning it, laughing about it. And then she heard something that made her blood run cold. The woman's voice again. "What about Keisha? You really think she won't find out?" And her daddy's response. "I told you, baby. I've got it handled. I've been making her think she's crazy for years, calling her paranoid, emotional, making her doubt herself. By the time I'm ready to leave, everyone's going to think she lost her mind. I'll get the house, the kids, everything. She won't know what hit her." He laughed again. "She makes it easy, honestly. So desperate to be a good wife, she'll believe anything I tell her. I could tell her the sky is green and she'd apologize for getting it wrong." Zoe stood there, frozen, tears streaming down her face. She didn't understand all the words, didn't know what custody meant or what a divorce lawyer did, but she understood this. Her daddy was planning to hurt her mama. He was planning to take her away from her mama, and he was laughing about it, enjoying it. She kept recording, hands shaking, tears falling, too scared to move. 7 more minutes. 7 minutes of Derek laying out his plan like a villain in a movie. How he'd been hiding money, moving it to accounts Keisha didn't know about, investments in his name only. How he'd been documenting her emotional episodes, the crying, the anxiety, the times she'd raised her voice, all caused by him, all saved as evidence against her. How his lawyer was already preparing, building a case for mental instability, painting a picture of a woman who couldn't be trusted to raise children. How his mother was in on it, would testify against Keisha if needed, would say she'd always worried about her daughter-in-law's fragile mental state. 7 minutes of a man Keisha had loved for 12 years, revealing himself as a monster. Then Zoe heard footsteps. Her daddy was coming back inside. She ran, up the stairs, skipping the creaky spots on instinct, down the hallway, into her room, under the covers, phone clutched to her chest like a lifeline. She lay there in the dark, shaking, crying silent tears into her pillow. Her daddy wanted to take her away from her mama. Her daddy thought her mama was stupid. Her daddy had another woman he loved more. And Zoe had proof. But she didn't know what to do with it. She was 8 years old, carrying a burden that would have crushed most adults. For 3 days, she carried that secret, barely ate, barely slept, barely spoke. At breakfast, she pushed her food around her plate. At school, her teacher asked if everything was okay. At home, she hid in her room, avoiding everyone. I noticed something was wrong. Of course I did. I asked her over and over, "Baby, are you feeling sick?" "I'm fine, Mama." "Did something happen at school?" "No, Mama." "You can tell me anything you know, anything at all." "I know, Mama. I'm just tired." I believed her, because I was so used to believing lies that I couldn't recognize the truth when it was staring me in the face, because I was so focused on keeping my own secrets that I couldn't see my daughter was keeping one too. For 3 days, that little girl carried the weight of her father's betrayal. 3 days of knowing something she was too young to know. 3 days of wondering what to do, who to tell, how to save her mama. Then, on Sunday night, she made a decision. Zoe came into my bedroom. Derek was out. Again. Business trip, he said. He'd be gone until Wednesday. I was sitting on my bed reading a book, trying to lose myself in someone else's story. Zoe closed the door behind her. Her face was pale. Her hands were shaking. "Mama, I need to show you something." And my whole world was about to change. I remember that moment like it was yesterday. Sitting on my bed, Zoe standing in front of me, holding that old phone like it weighed 100 pounds. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. I could see the tracks the tears had left on her cheeks. "Baby, what's wrong? Come here." I reached for her, but she didn't move. "Mama, promise me you won't be mad." "Sweetheart, I could never be mad at you. What's going on?" "Just promise me. Promise me you won't be mad at me." I promise. Now tell me what's wrong." She climbed onto the bed, curled up against my side like she used to when she was little and had a nightmare. I could feel her heart beating fast against my arm. "I did something, Mama. Something I'm not sure I should have done." "What did you do, baby?" "I recorded Daddy." My breath caught. "What do you mean?" "He was in the garage, talking to someone, late at night. I could hear him through my door, so I went downstairs and I recorded it." She handed me the phone. Screen cracked from being dropped too many times. My old phone, the one I'd given her months ago. I looked at the screen. A recording, 7 minutes and 43 seconds long. "I don't know if you want to hear it, Mama, but I think you need to. I've been carrying it for 3 days and I can't anymore. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Tears were streaming down her face. My 8-year-old daughter apologizing for trying to protect me. "Baby, you have nothing to be sorry for. Nothing at all. Do you understand me?" She nodded, but she was still shaking. I looked at the phone, at that play button. Somehow, I knew that if I pressed it, everything would change. My whole life would split into before and after. Maybe I don't need to hear it, I thought. Maybe I should put the phone down. Maybe I should keep living in ignorance. But I looked at my daughter, at the pain on her face, at the weight she'd been carrying. She had been brave enough to get this recording, brave enough to bring it to me. The least I could do was be brave enough to listen. I pressed play. The first thing I heard was Derek's voice, clear as day, no mistaking it. That voice I'd listened to for 12 years. That voice that had promised to love and cherish me. That voice that had told me I was crazy, imagining things, too emotional. That voice talking to another woman. "Baby, I miss you so much. These nights away from you are torture." And then her voice, sweet, flirty, intimate. "I miss you too, Derek. When are you coming back?" "Tomorrow night. I told Keisha I have a client dinner. She doesn't suspect anything?" His laugh, that cruel laugh I'd never heard before. "Tiffany, baby, I've got her completely handled. She's so busy trying to be the perfect wife, she doesn't see anything, doesn't question anything. I've spent years making her doubt herself. Now she thinks she's the problem in our marriage. That's kind of sad. It's strategic. When I file for divorce, I need everyone on my side. The judge, the lawyers, the family court evaluators. Everyone needs to believe I'm the stable one and she's the crazy one." My hands started shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. But Zoe pressed her hand over mine, steadied me. My 8-year-old daughter giving me strength. I kept listening. "And what about the kids? I'll get custody, full custody. I've been documenting everything. Every time she raises her voice, every time she cries, every time she seems unstable. My lawyer has a whole file. By the time we get to court, no judge in their right mind would give her those children." "But what about Zoe? She's so attached to her mother." "Zoe will adjust. Kids are resilient. And honestly, she's always been weird. Too quiet. Watches everything. She gives me the creeps sometimes." I looked at my daughter. The pain in her eyes. Hearing her father call her weird, say she gave him the creeps. I wanted to stop the recording right there. But Zoe shook her head. "Keep listening, Mama. It gets worse." It got worse. And the house, the money, all in my name. Well, the house is in her name, technically. Some legal thing from when we bought it. But I've got that handled, too. I've been moving money for years, accounts she doesn't know about, investments. By the time the divorce is finalized, there won't be much left to split. You're so smart, baby. I've been planning this for a long time. Had to wait until the kids were older, until I had my ducks in a row. But I'm almost ready. 6 more months, maybe less. And then we can be together? For real? For real. No more sneaking around. No more pretending to be a family man. Just you and me. Tears were streaming down my face, but I couldn't look away, couldn't stop listening. What if Keisha doesn't take it well? What if she makes things difficult? There was a pause. When Derek spoke again, his voice was different, colder, darker. She won't. I've got her so twisted up, she doesn't know which way is up. But if she tries anything, I know how to handle it. Handle it how? Let's just say I thought about every possibility, every single one. The way he said it, the pause between each word, the implication hanging in the air, that wasn't just a man planning a divorce. That was a threat. The recording ended. 7 minutes and 43 seconds of my life being destroyed. Zoe was pressed against me, crying softly. "I'm sorry, Mama. I'm sorry. I didn't know what else to do. I heard him talking and I knew something was wrong, and I just pressed record and I'm sorry." I held her, rocking back and forth, trying to process what I'd just heard. "Baby, you have nothing to be sorry for. Nothing. Do you hear me? Is Daddy going to hurt you, like he said?" I didn't know how to answer, because honestly, I didn't know anymore. The man on that recording wasn't the man I thought I married. He was a stranger, a calculating, manipulating stranger who had been wearing a mask for 12 years. How long had he been planning this? How long had he been lying to me? How long had I been married to a ghost? I thought about all the signs I'd ignored, the password changes, the late-night phone calls, the business trips, the receipts, the way he made me doubt myself every single time I questioned him. It all made sense now. He wasn't hiding things because he was stressed at work. He was hiding things because he was building a whole other life, planning my destruction. And I'd been too beaten down to see it. No, baby, Daddy's not going to hurt me, because now we know the truth, and we're going to be smart, we're going to be careful, and we're going to be okay. I held my daughter all night. Neither of us slept. But something had shifted inside me, the confusion, the self-doubt, the fog I'd been walking through for years. It was gone, burned away by the clarity of that recording. I finally knew the truth, and the truth was worse than anything I could have imagined. But at least it was the truth. The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront Derek. That's what he would expect. That's what he had prepared for. He wanted me to be emotional, irrational, to give him more ammunition for his case. I wasn't going to give him that satisfaction. Instead, I was going to be smart, strategic. I was going to gather evidence, build my own case, protect myself and my children. But first, I needed support. I needed someone to believe me. I called my sister Nicole first. We'd always been close, best friends as well as sisters. She was the one I called when I needed advice, when I was struggling, when I just needed to hear a familiar voice. "Nicole, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Can I come over?" She could hear something in my voice. "Keisha, what's wrong? Is everyone okay?" "Just please, I need to see you, in person." Okay, come over. I'll be here." I dropped the kids at school, drove to Nicole's house. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely grip the steering wheel. When she opened the door, her face was worried. She pulled me inside. "Girl, you look terrible. What happened?" I sat on her couch, pulled out the phone, took a deep breath. "I'm going to play you something, and I need you to just listen. Don't say anything until it's finished." I played the recording. Nicole's face went through every emotion. Confusion at first, then shock, then horror, then anger. When it finished, she was silent. "Nicole, Say something." She looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something I didn't expect: hesitation. "Keisha, that's definitely Derek's voice, and that's clearly inappropriate. But this is a recording from Zoe's phone. Are you sure she didn't, misunderstand something?" "Misunderstand what? You heard what he said. He's planning to destroy me. He's been hiding money. He's building a case against me. He threatened me." Nicole held up her hands. Okay. I'm not saying he didn't say those things. I'm just saying we don't know the full context. We don't know who he was talking to. We don't know if he was joking or venting or what." "Joking? You think that was a joke?" "No, I just mean there might be more to the story than what's on that recording." I stared at my sister. The woman who had been my rock for 36 years. The woman who had promised to always have my back. "Nicole, are you saying you don't believe me?" She shifted uncomfortably. "It's not that I don't believe you. I just want to be careful. You know how Derek can be. He might have a perfectly reasonable explanation." "A perfectly reasonable explanation for planning to take my children? For hiding money? For calling me crazy?" She reached for my hand. "Keisha, honey, I love you. You know I do. But I also know that you've been struggling lately. Derek told me about the anxiety, the paranoia, the times you've accused him of things that turned out to be nothing." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean, Derek told you?" "He called me a few months ago, said he was worried about you, said you'd been acting erratic, accusing him of cheating, of lying, of all sorts of things. He asked me to keep an eye on you." I couldn't speak. Derek had been laying the groundwork with my own sister. "So," Nicole continued gently, "when you come to me with this recording, made by an 8-year-old in the dark, I just want to be sure. I want to make sure you're not seeing something that isn't there." "Nicole, listen to yourself. You're repeating his words. You're doing exactly what he wanted you to do." "Keisha, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying we need to be careful. Think about the kids. Think about what an accusation like this could do to your family." "My family? My family is built on lies. My husband has been planning to destroy me for years. And you want me to be careful?" I grabbed the phone, stood up. "I thought you would believe me. I thought you would stand by me. But I see Derek got to you first." "Keisha, wait. That's not fair." "No, Nicole. What's not fair is my own sister doubting me when I finally have proof. What's not fair is spending years being told I'm crazy, and then being told I'm crazy again when I show you I'm not." I walked out, drove away, crying so hard I had to pull over. That's what gaslighting does. It doesn't just affect the victim, it poisons everyone around them. Derek had spent years planting seeds, whispering in people's ears, telling my family, my friends, anyone who would listen, that I was struggling, fragile, unstable. So when I finally came forward with the truth, they didn't see a woman who had discovered her husband's betrayal. They saw a woman having another breakdown. I called my best friend Tamika next. We'd been friends since college. She knew me better than almost anyone. "Mika, I need to see you. Can you meet me?" We met at a coffee shop. I told her everything, played her the recording. Tamika's reaction was different from Nicole's, angrier, more protective. "Keisha, if this is real, we need to get you a lawyer. Today, right now." "It is real. You heard him." "Oh, I believe you. That man's voice is clear as day. And what he's describing is textbook abuse. Psychological abuse, financial abuse, and that threat at the end, girl, that's serious." Finally, someone who believed me. But even Tamika had concerns. "You know how this is going to look, though, right? Derek's been running his mouth for years, got everybody thinking you're falling apart. And now you come forward with a recording made by your 8-year-old daughter in the middle of the night? I didn't make her do it. She did it on her own." "I know that. You know that. But a judge might not. Derek's lawyer is going to try to flip this, make it seem like you coached her, like you manipulated her into spying on her own father. But that's not what happened." "I know, sweetie. But the truth and what you can prove in court are two different things. We need to be smart about this. We need more evidence. We need witnesses. We need documentation. She grabbed my hand. Most importantly, we need you to stay calm. Derek's counting on you breaking down, making emotional decisions, giving him ammunition. You cannot give him that satisfaction. So what do I do? You act normal. You don't let on that you know anything. You gather evidence, and you find the best divorce lawyer in this city. I went home that day feeling slightly better. At least someone believed me. At least someone was on my side. But the next few weeks were hard. I told my mother about the recording. She listened, then said she'd pray for my marriage. Suggested I talk to the pastor at our church. Maybe Derek just needed spiritual guidance. I told my friend Janice from the neighborhood. She looked uncomfortable, said she didn't want to get involved in other people's marriages. Changed the subject. I went to church that Sunday. Pastor Jenkins noticed me sitting alone. Derek was still on his business trip. "Sister Keisha, you seem troubled. Is everything all right?" I asked to speak with him privately, told him about the recording, about Derek's affair, about the threats. Pastor Jenkins listened. Then he took a deep breath. "Sister, marriage is sacred. Whatever you think you heard, I urge you to pray on it. Talk to your husband. Give him a chance to explain. We shouldn't let the devil tear apart what God has joined together." "But Pastor, you didn't hear the recording. He's planning to take my children. He's been hiding money. He threatened to handle me if I made things difficult." Brother Derek has been a faithful member of this congregation for over a decade, a deacon, a family man. I find it hard to believe he would do the things you're describing. I have proof. I have a recording made by a child, in the dark, of a private conversation. "Sister Keisha, I've known you for many years, and I've seen you struggle. Maybe this is one of those times when your mind is playing tricks on you, when you're seeing demons where there are none. My mind is not playing tricks. I know what I heard. Then bring Derek to me, both of you. Let's sit down together and work through this. That's what Christian families do. They don't run to lawyers and courts. They bring their troubles to God." I walked out of that church and never went back. For 3 weeks, I felt like I was drowning. Everyone I turned to had doubts. Everyone wanted me to slow down, think clearly, not make any rash decisions. Meanwhile, Derek was out there, building his case, adding to his documentation, meeting with his lawyer, moving more money I didn't know about. They didn't need proof. They needed me to stay quiet. And I almost did. The weight of everyone's doubt almost crushed me into silence. Some nights, I lay in bed wondering if I was wrong, if the recording wasn't what I thought it was, if I had somehow misunderstood. That's how deep the gaslighting went. Even with evidence in my hand, I doubted myself. But then I would look at Zoe, my brave little girl who had risked everything to get me that recording, who had crept through her own house in the dark to protect her mama, who had carried that burden for 3 days before finding the courage to tell me. If she could be that brave, so could I. I wasn't going to let Derek win. I wasn't going to let everyone's doubt defeat me. I was going to fight. Finding Angela Morrison was the best thing that ever happened to me. Tamika found her, did research, made calls, asked around in her network of professional Black women. Angela was a divorce attorney who specialized in cases just like mine: high-conflict divorces, narcissistic abuse, gaslighting. She had a reputation for taking on cases that seemed impossible and winning. I walked into her office with a folder full of everything I'd managed to gather: bank statements I'd secretly copied, screenshots of Derek's text messages when he'd left his phone unlocked, the recording, and 3 pages of notes about every lie I could remember him telling. Angela was a striking woman, mid-50s, natural hair in a silver crown, sharp eyes behind elegant glasses. She wore a crisp white blouse and gray suit that screamed, "I don't play games." She listened without interrupting, read through my documents, played the recording twice, taking notes. Then she set down her pen and looked at me. "Mrs. Carter, your husband is very good at what he does. He's spent years building a narrative, isolating you, turning people against you, making sure that when this moment came, nobody would believe you. Yes, that's exactly what happened. But narratives can be dismantled, especially when we have evidence like this. She tapped the phone. This recording is powerful. Your husband admits to hiding assets, building a false case against you, and threatening to handle you if you make things difficult. Any reasonable person hearing this would see him for what he is. But will it hold up in court? That's where it gets complicated. The recording was made by a minor, without consent. Your husband's lawyer will argue it's inadmissible, that you coached your daughter, that it was obtained illegally. I didn't coach her. I believe you, and we can prove that. But we need more. We need to establish a pattern of behavior. We need witnesses. We need financial documentation. We need to show the court that this recording is consistent with who Derek really is. She leaned forward. Most importantly, Mrs. Carter, we need you to not fall apart. Your husband is counting on you being emotional, irrational, proving his narrative right. I need you to be calm, collected, and strategic at all times. I can do that. Can you? Because what I'm asking isn't easy. I'm asking you to live with a man who's been deceiving you for years, to act normal, to not tip him off, to let him think he's still in control while we build our case. I thought about Zoe, about Marcus, about everything I'd already endured. I've been pretending for years. A few more months won't kill me. Good. Then let's get to work. For 6 months, I lived a double life. On the surface, nothing changed. I was still Derek's dutiful wife, cooking his meals, doing his laundry, smiling when he came home, pretending I didn't know. But underneath, I was gathering ammunition. Angela's team was thorough. They found the hidden accounts, ones even Derek had forgotten about. They subpoenaed financial records going back years. They tracked down Tiffany, the woman on the recording. And what they discovered was worse than I thought. Tiffany wasn't just his mistress. She was his colleague. They worked at the same financial firm, had been having an affair for over 3 years, which meant there were records, emails, messages, hotel receipts, conference trips they'd taken together. Derek had been so careful at home, but at work, he'd gotten sloppy, thought nobody was watching. We were watching. Meanwhile, Derek filed for divorce, just like he'd planned. The papers arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, delivered by a man in a suit who wouldn't meet my eyes. Derek came home that evening, sat me down with a concerned expression. Keisha, I think we need to talk. Our marriage hasn't been working for a long time. I've tried to make it work, but I think we both know it's over. I wanted to laugh in his face. I wanted to throw the recording at him and watch his world crumble. But I kept my composure, just like Angela taught me. I see. This is a surprise. I know it is, baby, and I'm sorry, but I think it's for the best. We can do this amicably, split things fairly, focus on what's best for the kids. Of course, Derek, whatever you think is best. He looked relieved. Thought I was going to be easy, compliant, just like always. Now, my lawyer has drawn up some papers. Nothing major, just some initial agreements about the house, the finances, custody arrangements. He slid the papers across the table. I looked at them, saw exactly what Angela said would be there. He wanted the house, which was in my name. He wanted primary custody. He wanted most of the assets. He wanted everything. I'll need to have my lawyer look at these. His expression flickered. Your lawyer? Yes, I thought it would be best to have my own representation, just to make sure everything is fair. Keisha, we don't need to make this complicated. Lawyers just drag things out and cost money. I understand, but I'd still like to have someone review the paperwork before I sign anything. He stared at me for a long moment, trying to figure out if I knew something, if I was playing a game. Fine, have your lawyer look at them, but don't drag this out, Keisha. That wouldn't be good for anyone. Of course not, Derek. I just want what's fair. That night, I called Angela. He filed. And he thinks I'm going to roll over? She laughed. Perfect. Let him think that. The more confident he is, the harder he'll fall. The custody hearing was set for 3 months later. I spent those months documenting everything. Every angry outburst Derek had when he didn't get his way. Every time he came home late and lied about where he'd been. Every time he belittled me in front of the children. The kids noticed the tension. Marcus was angry, slamming doors, picking fights at school. Zoe was quieter than ever, watching everything with those old eyes. I told them that Mommy and Daddy were going through some grown-up stuff, that no matter what happened, I loved them more than anything, that everything would be okay. I hoped I wasn't lying. The day of the custody hearing, I was terrified. I barely slept the night before, spent an hour getting dressed, changed outfits 3 times. Angela had told me to look put together, but not flashy, professional, stable. Derek walked into the courtroom looking like the perfect father, suit pressed, smile charming, shaking hands with the judge's clerk like they were old friends. He even had the nerve to smile at me, that same smile he'd given me at the wedding, the smile that had made me believe in fairy tales. I didn't smile back. The first hour was brutal. Derek's lawyer was aggressive. She painted a picture of a mentally unstable woman who had neglected her children, accused her devoted husband of imaginary crimes, and was now attempting to use the court to steal what wasn't hers. She brought up every emotional moment Derek had documented, every time I'd cried, every time I'd raised my voice, every time I'd accused Derek of something and he'd convinced me I was wrong. She made me sound crazy, dangerous, unfit. I sat there, hands folded, face calm, just like Angela taught me. Inside, I was screaming. Then it was Angela's turn. Your Honor, opposing counsel has painted my client as an unstable woman, but I'd like to present evidence that shows the true picture of this marriage. She started with the finances, showed the hidden accounts, the missing money, the investments Derek had made without his wife's knowledge. The judge's expression changed. Interest sparked in his eyes. Then she brought up the affair, presented emails between Derek and Tiffany, hotel receipts, text messages that made it clear this wasn't just a friendship. Derek's face went pale. His lawyer tried to object, tried to say it was irrelevant. The judge overruled her. Then Angela played her final card. Your Honor, we'd like to submit an audio recording into evidence, a recording that will show the court exactly who Derek Carter really is. Derek's lawyer exploded, objected on every ground she could think of. The recording was obtained illegally. It was made by a minor. It was manipulated, fabricated, inadmissible. But Angela was prepared. She had affidavits from audio forensic experts confirming the recording was authentic. She had Zoe's testimony, given to a child psychologist, explaining exactly how and why she made the recording. She had proof that I had never coached my daughter, that Zoe had acted on her own, that the recording was made spontaneously by a child trying to protect her mother. The judge reviewed everything, took a long recess. When he came back, he allowed the recording. And then the courtroom heard Derek's voice, planning to take everything from me, calling me stupid, easy to manipulate, saying he'd been making me think I was crazy for years, talking about handling me if I made things difficult. Every single one. When the recording ended, the room was silent. The judge's face was stone. Derek was staring at the table in front of him, couldn't look at anyone. His lawyer was shuffling papers, trying to find something, anything, to say. And then the judge spoke. Mr. Carter, I have heard a lot of concerning things in this courtroom today, but what I just listened to goes beyond concerning. That was a man describing a calculated campaign of psychological abuse against his wife, a man hiding assets, a man threatening violence. I don't threaten, Derek started. The judge held up his hand. I'm not finished. You described ensuring that your wife would be seen as mentally unstable. You described making her think she was crazy. Those are your words, Mr. Carter, from your own mouth. He turned to Derek's lawyer. Counselor, I hope you have something substantial to say, because right now, your client's case is in serious trouble. She didn't have anything substantial. She tried to reframe the recording, but the damage was done. The judge ruled in my favor. Full custody of the children. The house, which had always been in my name, remained mine. Derek was ordered to pay child support and alimony based on his actual income, including the hidden accounts, and he was referred to criminal investigators for the threatening statements made in the recording. When we walked out of that courtroom, Tamika was waiting for me. "Girl, you did it." "No, Zoe did it. I just followed her lead." In the months that followed, Derek's carefully constructed life fell apart. His company found out about everything: the affair with Tiffany, the hidden accounts, the misuse of company resources for personal trips, the fact that he'd been conducting personal business on company time for years. He was fired, walked out of the building with security escorting him. 15 years at that company, gone in an afternoon. Tiffany was fired too. Their affair had violated company policy. And once the recording became public during the investigation, nobody wanted to be associated with either of them. The finance world is small. Word got around. Derek applied to other firms. Nobody would touch him. His reputation was destroyed. He went from making $200,000 a year to barely being able to find work at all. Last I heard, he was doing freelance consulting, making a fraction of what he used to. Tiffany left him, of course. Turns out she wasn't interested in a broke man with a scandal following him. The woman he'd thrown away his family for disappeared the moment he had nothing left to offer. Funny how that works. The community turned on him too. All those people who had believed his narrative, who had thought I was the crazy one, who had told me to pray and try harder and give him another chance. They heard the recording. Everyone heard the recording. Pastor Jenkins called to apologize, said he'd been deceived, asked if I'd consider coming back to church. "Pastor, I found a new church, one that believed me from the start." My sister Nicole came over in tears. "Keisha, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have trusted you. I was so wrong." I forgave her, because holding on to resentment wasn't going to help me heal. But I'd be lying if I said things were the same between us. There was a distance now, a scar that would take time to fade. Some wounds take longer to heal than others. My mother called, cried on the phone, said she was proud of me, said she was sorry she hadn't supported me more. Tamika threw me a freedom party, invited all my real friends, the ones who had believed me when it mattered. We danced until midnight, laughed until our stomachs hurt, celebrated the end of a nightmare. Derek tried to repair his image, went on social media telling his side of the story, claimed the recording was manipulated, that I had turned the children against him, that he was the real victim. Some people believed him. There are always people who will believe the villain, people who are more comfortable with lies than truth. But most didn't. The truth has a way of sticking once it's out there. He sees the kids every other weekend now, supervised visits. That's what the court ordered after the threats were investigated. A supervisor has to be present every time he's with them. He can't take them anywhere without approval. Can't be alone with them for more than a few hours. It's not what he wanted. Not the full custody he'd planned for. Not the house he'd tried to steal. Not the children he'd treated like chess pieces. But it's what he got. Marcus is struggling with it. He's 13 now, caught between anger at his father and guilt for that anger. Some weeks he refuses to go to the visits. Other weeks he comes home silent and withdrawn. We're in family therapy, working through it together. It's going to take time. Zoe is different, quieter than ever, but there's a peace about her now, like she was carrying a weight and finally got to set it down. She told me once that she doesn't miss her daddy, misses the daddy she thought she had, but that man never really existed, did he? No, baby, he didn't. I asked her once if she regretted what she did, if it was too much for an 8-year-old to carry, if she wished she'd never pressed that record button. She looked at me with those wise old eyes. "No, Mama, I'd do it again. Every time. Because you're my mama, and nobody hurts my mama." I cried for an hour. As for me, I'm rebuilding. I went back to work. After 12 years out of the workforce, it wasn't easy. Had to update my certification, take refresher courses, accept an entry-level position at a small firm. But I'm there, growing, learning, building something of my own. I'm in therapy now, working through years of manipulation, relearning how to trust myself, discovering who Keisha really is underneath all the layers of wife and mother and victim. It's slow work. Some days I still hear Derek's voice in my head. You're overreacting. You're imagining things. You're crazy. But those days are getting fewer, and when they come, I know how to fight back. I started dating again. Nothing serious, just dipping my toe in the water, reminding myself what it feels like to be seen, to be appreciated, to be believed. There's a man. We've been out a few times. He's kind, patient, doesn't try to fix me or rush me. We'll see where it goes. For now, I'm focused on me, on the kids, on building the life I should have had all along. Derek says I ruined his life. I say the truth finally caught up with him. He lost his job, his reputation, his family, his future. But you know what I gained? Everything. I gained my self-respect, the knowledge that I'm not crazy, I'm not too emotional, I'm not imagining things. I was right all along. My instincts were right. My gut was right. I just couldn't hear it over the noise of his lies. I gained my children's respect. They saw their mama fight back. They saw their mama stand up for herself. They learned that you don't have to accept abuse just because the abuser says they love you. Marcus told me recently that he wants to be a lawyer, wants to help women like me, wants to make sure nobody gets away with what his father tried to do. Zoe wants to be a child psychologist, wants to help kids who see too much, who carry too much, who have to be brave before they're ready. I'm so proud of them. I gained my peace. For the first time in years, I sleep through the night. No more waiting for the other shoe to drop. No more walking on eggshells. No more wondering what I did wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. He did. And now he has to live with the consequences. I know you're out there, sitting in your living room, or lying in your bed, or hiding in your car on your lunch break, watching this on your phone. The woman who feels crazy, who feels alone, who feels like no one would believe her even if she told them. I was you. I spent years thinking I was the problem, that if I just loved harder, tried harder, smiled more, questioned less, everything would be okay. It was never going to be okay, because the problem wasn't me, and the problem isn't you. If your gut is telling you something is wrong, listen to it, even when everyone else says you're overreacting, even when the person who's supposed to love you most tells you you're crazy. You're not crazy. You know what you know. Trust that. If your child is watching you suffer, pay attention. Children see everything. They carry burdens we never meant to give them. They absorb our pain and try to protect us in ways we don't even understand. My daughter saved my life with an old iPhone and 7 minutes of courage. What is your child seeing that you've been too afraid to face? If your friends and family don't believe you, don't give up. Find the ones who will. They're out there. The people who will listen without judgment, who will stand by you when it's hard, who will help you fight. I found Tamika. I found Angela. I found a community of women who understood because they'd been there too. Your people are out there. Keep looking. If your instincts keep whispering, if that little voice in your head won't let you rest, please listen. That voice is you, the real you, the you that hasn't been gaslit into silence yet. She's still in there. She's been trying to tell you the truth all along. Listen to her. I know it's scary. I know leaving feels impossible. I know you're worried about what people will think, what you'll lose, how you'll survive. But staying isn't surviving. Staying is slowly dying while pretending you're fine. You deserve more than that. Your children deserve more than that. I'm not saying it's easy. It wasn't easy for me. There were days I didn't know if I could keep going. Days I wondered if I'd made the right choice. Days I missed the comfort of denial, the peace of pretending everything was fine. But I never missed him. Not once. And you won't either. Because what you're missing isn't a person. It's the fantasy, the hope, the dream of who he was supposed to be. That person never existed. And once you accept that, You can start building a life with someone who does exist. You, just you, and you are enough. I'm living proof that there's life on the other side of this. Good life, peaceful life, real life. A life where you don't have to question your own sanity, where you don't have to walk on eggshells, where you don't have to shrink yourself to fit someone else's comfort. A life where you get to be exactly who you are. It starts with one brave moment, one decision to stop accepting less than you deserve, one step toward the truth, even when everyone tells you you're wrong. My 8-year-old daughter took that step for me, but you can take it for yourself. You don't need a recording. You don't need proof. You don't need anyone's permission. You just need to believe yourself. Believe that your feelings are valid, that your instincts are right, that you deserve love that doesn't hurt. Because you do. Silence doesn't save families. Truth does. Please choose the truth. Please choose yourself. Please stay, because your story isn't over. The best chapter is still waiting to be written, and it starts the moment you decide you deserve better. Because you do. You really, really do. And somewhere out there, your daughter is watching, learning, growing, becoming. Show her what strength looks like. Show her what self-respect looks like. Show her that women don't have to suffer in silence, that we can fight back, that we can win. Be the mother you needed when you were her age. Be the woman you're meant to be. Be free. Keisha received full custody of both children. She rebuilt her career and now manages her own accounting department. Marcus is 17, honor roll student, wants to be a civil rights lawyer. Zoe is 15, top of her class, wants to study psychology. Derek lost his job, his reputation, and pays alimony every month. He and Tiffany broke up 3 months after the trial. He currently lives in a studio apartment and works at a call center. Pastor Jenkins stepped down after several women came forward with similar stories about church leaders dismissing their concerns. Nicole and Keisha are slowly rebuilding their relationship. The recording has been used in training programs for family court judges. Most importantly, Keisha chose herself, and she's never been happier.